Nothing captures the human mind quite like love. It makes us sick. It makes us blind. It makes us crazy. It makes us pine and grieve and rage, and yet chase it. There is no other possible disaster we run toward with such furious and determined speed. Why? Because we know in our hearts that when it works, there is nothing better. No drug in the world is more potent than love, and some people will go to extremes to get a fix. Now you might be thinking of how special a grand gesture can be, and how we would all love to be on the receiving end of one, but this is not that kind of story. Sometimes love takes a dark turn, and we find ourselves thinking of not what we would do, but what we wouldn't do. For Carl Tanzler, the answer was nothing. Nothing could keep him from love, not even death. I'm Holly.
I'm Leslie.
And we would be dead. Are you ready to hear like a spooky, yucky story?
I suppose. I guess that's why we're here today.
You look very ready. But this one is, it's Valentine's week.
Oh, yeah. So it'll be a little love. And...
Yeah, it's romantic.
Okay.
In like a super gross kind of way, but that's fine, right?
It's the best kind of love.
Gross love.
Gross love.
Oh, if that was a book, I would read that book.
Yeah. Well, maybe we'll make a book.
Gross
if we get more subscribers.
Like and subscribe and we'll write gross love.
Yeah.
And then just we can read it and it'll be great.
It'll be wonderful.
So today we're talking about not a doctor, Carl Tanzler.
Like Dr. Phil. He's not a real doctor, right?
No, he's a doctor.
Is he? Is he now? Or
I think so. I didn't know he was ever not a doctor.
I remember that being a thing, but go on.
I have to look that up now. Dr. Phil, comment somewhere in our lives whether Dr. Phil is an actual doctor or not. I'm pretty sure he is. But if he's not, like, it's going to rock my world.
Yeah.
So cool. But Carl Tanzler 100% was not a doctor at all, but he has reported as such, and we'll find out why later. He was born on February 8th in 1877 in Dresden, Germany, and had what we will start out by calling an extremely active and fanciful imagination.
Oh, fancy man.
He was basically a complete and total nutbag. And lots of people who are complete and total nutbags begin their journey as eccentric or creative or weird assholes who make up titles for themselves. Like Dr. Phil, I guess?
Yeah, like Dr. Phil.
I'm so sorry, Dr. Phil. Please don't sue us.
He was my favorite, so I apologize.
We say I believed you. But we digress. It should be noted that Tanzler goes by a lot of different names. He's Dr. Carl Tanzler, just Carl Tanzler, Count Carl von Kossel. Carl.
I don't know if that was the right way to say it.
Carl. I think for our purposes, we're just going to call him Carl because he has so many names that it makes it a lot easier and it's like a little more fun.
And you don't want your accent to come out with Tanzler?
No, I do say Tanzler because we're from New Jersey. I'm sure if I was like more proficient in German, it would be Tanzler.
Tanzler.
Ooh. Maybe you get the German words from now on.
I am German.
Oh, well then there you have it. I'm not.
Yes.
So now all the German belongs to Leslie. Great.
Wonderful.
As a child, he started calling himself Count Carl von Kossel. We have no reasons why. He just picked it. He liked it.
It's a solid name.
Yeah, it's pretty solid. And when he was around 12, he started saying he had visions of his ancestor, Countess Anna Constantina von Kossel, who revealed to him the face of his true love, a beautiful woman with pale skin and dark eyes and dark hair.
This sounds really nice, actually.
Aww. Oh, just wait.
It's like such a fairy tale.
It sounds like Snow White a little bit, right?
A little bit, yeah.
It's not.
Okay.
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 But he fixated on the image of this woman, that she was made for him and he was going to find her. And that was going to be, it really does sound like a fairy tale so far. So on the outset of World War I, somewhere around 1915, the story lacks a lot of concrete dates in the beginning. Just they're kind of there. Carl was interned in Trial Bay Jail in New South Wales, Australia. And jail is spelled the old-timey way, Gaol, which I love.
Nerd.
I know. There's a lot of that going to happen. Trial Bay Jail was used to inter war prisoners with social standing. So they weren't really soldiers or anybody who did anything. They were upper middle class people. And it wasn't really a harsh sentence. If you look at pictures, which we will post on our social media, it's beautiful. It's like off the coast of Australia with crystal blue waters. It's a stone structure. Prisoners were not confined during the day. They were free to fish or swim or play tennis.
Wow.
I know.
This is like a great start to a love story.
It's a vacation.
Yeah.
Or engage in social activities. And I'm pretty sure this is where he started referring publicly to himself as Count von Kossel.
Yeah, I think I would come up with a really high
With an awesome name.
society name if I was staying in a place like that.
Same. It's like a spa retreat.
Yes.
Maybe we should go to a spa retreat and call ourselves fancy princess names.
Okay.
I like that idea. We'll go back to it. And he loves an opportunity for reinvention, and this was a perfect one. The jail also had opportunities to participate in work activities at established businesses, so prisoners could get what might otherwise be a really costly trade education. They could learn to weld, make furniture, shoemaking, gardening, lots of things. Again, this is not a terrible place to be. There were several high-end places to eat. They had boxing and chess clubs. They ran a newspaper, and they had a stage complete with an orchestra. Like, sign me the fuck up.
Yeah.
I want to go. However, Carl thought that he was still a prisoner. That was fun. Fine. He thought he was still a prisoner, so he wanted to escape, like a daring escape, because, again, he's got this crazy fanciful imagination. So he did just that. He escaped in a sailboat.
Also very fancy of him.
Yeah, I know. I imagine he had like a little captain's hat.
Yeah.
I wonder why he wasn't like Captain
I won't
Carl.
do it unless I have a captain's hat.
Me neither. So I'm pretty sure security wasn't nuts in this jail either. If he just sailed away.
Because for a jail, that sounds really nice.
It's open too. I'll put up pictures. It's not. It doesn't look like a jail.
Was there any? Did they speak of anything that they had to do? Like any?
There was like some work labor type of stuff, but not really. They were really just keeping them away.
Okay.
So they seemed like prisoners of war. And they were confined at night.
Okay.
Into, I guess, a cell, but I'm imagining it wasn't too difficult to be in.
Okay.
I don't think he was that uncomfortable.
Right.
So he sailed back to his mother in Germany. And the dates here are still a little hazy, but the jail closed as an internment camp in 1918. So sometime around then is when Count von Creepy spent some time there. He later went on to like wildly exaggerate his daring rescue for the Rosicrucian Times in 1934. And he mentions that he bought an island and just played the organ a lot.
Yeah.
That's such a creepy Count thing to do.
It is. Yeah. He's really setting himself up here, isn't he?
I'm on my own private island and I play the organ like the Phantom of the Opera.
Yeah.
That's what he said. He played the organ all the time. He actually did have several, but he did not have a private island.
If anybody owns a private island, it's usually not a good thing.
No.
Unless Epstein didn't kill himself. You can cut that out.
Keep that in. Keep that in. I'm about it. I didn't arrive there originally with you, but I'm there now.
That's all I was thinking about.
I love it. So this is beginning to paint a nice picture of what kind of crazy Carl was. He was like the shiny kind of crazy, like a confetti cannon of bullshit. Just spread it all around.
I love that.
You like that?
Yeah.
I wrote things down this week.
Good.
After Carl returned home to his mommy, he married Doris Schaefer in 1920. And the pair had 2 children. Aisha, I believe is how you pronounce her name. If I'm wrong, someone will tell me. In 1922, and Clarista in 1924. And it should be noted that Doris was not like the beautiful woman from Carl's vision.
Yeah, I was wondering, what did she look like?
There are no pictures of poor Doris. She gets
Nobody wanted pictures.
I guess not. I feel bad for Doris because she just doesn't get the kind of attention other people did.
You know what? I'm going to guess that it was probably for the better.
Yeah.
Okay.
Agreed, 100%. He just kind of gave up on his visions and got married because he figured that's what life is supposed to be like.
When you're ready to give up, just get married.
Just get married. Good
Love.
message. It's a nice message, Carl. It should be noted that his marriage certificate lists him as Carl Tanzler, and his wife and children were Tanzlers as well.
Okay.
So for those reasons, that was his last name, though he doesn't keep it forever. In 1926, Carl emigrated to the United States, and he was listed on his immigration papers as Count Carl von Cosel. Yep, that's why we just call him Carl. Make up your damn mind. His family joined him shortly after, and the Tanzler settled in Zephyr Hills, Florida.
Everything is so fancy in this story.
I know. I love the name.
I want it
Zephyr
to be
Hills.
happy.
It's not.
Okay.
It's not happy. But you know what? Just go along for the ride. It's going to be fine.
I'm with you. I'm here for it.
Carl could never settle for a life that simple. So he eventually grew tired of his lame-ass wife and family and began fixating on his dream woman again.
Okay.
We're back to that. Cool. So at this point, I'm going to set in for just like a little reality check. And I have to remind everyone that Carl has received no medical training at all. None. I'm as much of a doctor, and a count for that matter, as he is.
All right.
So maybe call me Dr. Count from now on.
Von Holly.
Yes.
Dr. Von Holly.
I'm going to change my name 8 times to that. So in 1927, Carl up and just like leaves his family. Bye. To accept a job as a radiology technician at the U.S. Marine Hospital in Key West, Florida. Also a lovely location.
Yes.
You could captain a boat, hang out,
Little Jimmy Buffett.
play your organ. Sounds great. His wife was apparently nonplussed by this. She was like, okay, that's fine. You can leave. I imagine being rid of a crazy, pretentious Sigmund Freud lookalike, because he looked like Sigmund Freud. He looks real crazy. We have pictures. Who occasionally pretended to be Italian royalty was a bit of a relief. So take a break, Doris.
He sounds lovely.
He is a delight. He just gets better and better.
So where did he work again?
Key West at the Coast Guard Hospital, I believe is what I said. The U.S. Marine Hospital in Key West, Florida.
Okay.
Again, like a vacation destination.
And how did you probably said this, how did he get that job? Did he fake papers or
There wasn't a
something,
lot of training. He was just a tech.
Oh, just a
and
tech.
this is the 30s, so you didn't really need any training for that. He was just assisting with x-rays, and I think he probably learned to give x-rays.
Yeah.
But that's it. He wasn't doing any actual medical things. He was
that makes sense, because now you would need a certificate, but before
then you didn't.
You probably didn't. Okay.
No. So he works in a hospital now.
Mm-hmm.
Naturally, he decides he's a doctor.
Yes.
Cool. So I'm going to get a job cleaning toilets in the White House and be president.
There you go. That's how it's done.
Yeah, that's how it works.
I think
cool.
I won't say it.
I know. I like wrote down and crossed out like 10 things.
Okay.
That's fine. Anyway, find your dream job and just work near it, and then you're that.
That, I think, is actually a great philosophy. I mean, the way he did it seems wrong. Like, it's a little out there. But that is basically what most people tell you to do.
That's true.
So.
Dress for your dream job.
Yeah.
Be Batman. It's fine.
Yeah, absolutely.
For 3 years, Carl worked at the hospital, taking x-rays and just assisting in other minor radiological tasks of the time, whatever they were. It's not incredibly descriptive what they did, but it was probably kind of nutty. Mm-hmm. And on April 22nd, 1930, Carl Tanzler meets Maria Elena Milagro de Hoyos.
Is this her?
It is. Who sometimes went by Helen, and who could blame her?
Yeah.
It's a lot of names. But for our purposes, we will continue to call her Elena because that's what she's referred to in most documents. Carl immediately recognizes her as the woman from his childhood visions. It was her. She has arrived. She was his soulmate, the woman the universe had designed for him. So naturally, he was like really casual about the whole situation.
I'm just imagining her walking in and the wind blowing her hair and it's very slow. And
there's dreamy music playing. Yeah, I think that's how it was in his head. But before we get to his reactions to her, let's talk briefly about Elena.
Okay.
Elena was known locally for being very beautiful. She was of Cuban descent. As I mentioned, she had fair skin and dark hair, dark eyes. She was born in 1909, which makes her a whopping 21 at the time of their meeting. And Carl was 53.
Oh.
Yeah, which is old enough to be her dad, especially at the time.
Okay.
So it's a little more gross now.
Mm-hmm. And that was still, I mean, I know that it was that time of that era, I guess. Young women would marry older men, so it wasn't crazy, but it was still, it's not what they wanted.
Even then, that is a very drastic age gap, because this is the 30s.
Right.
So the people married young, but not usually to someone that could be their dad's age, unless it was like some sort of sad Les Mis type situation. Right. Where you're dying in poverty.
And this guy has goats. Let's...
He had no goats, but a fake doctorate, and he was a fake count.
Yeah.
So there you go. Elena was born to cigar maker Francisco Hoyos, who was 3 years younger than Carl.
Oh, so she, well.
Super gross.
Yeah.
Double gross. And her mother's name was Aurora Milagro.
These are pretty names.
I know, like it's nice. Elena had two older sisters, Florinda, who was born in 1906, which made her 24 at the time, and Celia, born in 1905, making her 25. In 1926, at just 17, Elena married Luis Mesa, who left her shortly after she miscarried their first pregnancy and moved to Miami.
Fuck him.
Yeah, he's an A number one super dick. We don't like him. But apparently marrying her was the only noteworthy thing he ever did in his whole life. So, sorry, not sorry.
Yeah, I'm not sorry.
Bye, Luis. Unfortunately, the reason Elena walked into the hospital at which Carl was pretending to be a doctor was to be diagnosed with tuberculosis.
Oh.
I know. That stinks. A horrible disease which would eventually claim half of her family. So it tore through them.
At least she didn't think it was Slender Man.
She did not. Teaser. Listen to our Slender Man episode. Yeah. You'll understand why. This devastated Carl because he just found the woman of his dreams and now she has tuberculosis. Bummer. But naturally, he thought he should and could be the one to treat her.
Yeah. Well, he loves her.
And a fake doctor is perfect for real tuberculosis.
Yes. His love will save her.
That's what he thinks.
I'm excited to find out.
Oh, we're getting there.
Oh.
Of course, in the early 1930s, the usual treatments for tuberculosis were just fresh air. The end.
Oh.
Yeah.
So he might do more than that, right?
He for sure did more than that.
Okay.
But they would just like confine you away to sanatoriums and then make you sit outside a lot, even if it was in the freezing cold, because they thought that fresh air was what would cleanse you of TB. Incorrect. What cleanses you of TB is antibiotics.
Yeah. Did they have antibiotics?
They did not have the specific one that cures TB back then. It didn't get discovered until, I believe, 1940. I think it's called streptomycin.
That makes sense.
I did a lot of research, but I did not write that name down. So, doctors, you can call me out because a lot of doctors are going to listen to this.
We are going to be their number one choice.
For sure. Super informed.
Yeah.
I'm a fake doctor as of today because I found out I could be.
Yeah.
Pretty excited about that. Super. So, Carl could not resign Elena to that fate. He told her that he was a doctor again and that he could come to her home and treat her there privately, which is not shady at all.
No, that's really convenient.
I'm sure everybody did that to all their patients.
Well, probably if you paid enough, but he just wanted to be paid
This
in
was
love.
free.
Yeah. It was the woman of his dreams, Holly.
I know.
What was he supposed to do?
Probably give her fake medicine and pretend to be a doctor.
Was it his grandma that helped him figure this out?
No, that was his fake ancestor.
Oh, okay.
It doesn't focus on a whole lot of reality.
I gotcha. Okay.
So
I'm trying to make sense of this.
Don't. There isn't a lot of sense.
I just want there to be love.
Not from Carl. Carl. Carl began visiting, I already said that. He began to visit Elena in her home and treating her, and I'm doing air quotes, but you can't see that because this is a podcast. So he began treating her with things he had just stolen from the hospital, like medication of the time, elixirs. He would sneak her into the hospital and treat her with x-rays. And that's probably because the only thing he knew how to do in a hospital was operate an x-ray machine.
Right.
He was like, here's some x-rays. You're better. Cool. He began to spend more and more time in Elena's home with her and with her family. And they were very grateful to Carl for trying to save their sister and daughter. And Elena's symptoms seemed to be under control for the time being. Here's the thing with TB. It does occasionally go into like a remission type state. Like it isn't always super active, like the dramatic Moulin Rouge moments where they're coughing up blood into a white hanky.
Yes.
That's not always your life. Sometimes you're like a little bit more functional. And I think conveniently that's just what was happening. But we can't tell. Maybe x-rays worked. I don't know. And soon after that, Carl began to cross the line into creepery. He would start bringing her personal gifts like perfume and jewelry and began to confess his love to her. He proposed several times and Elena was very polite, but she never returned his affections. Wah, wah.
Poor Carl.
Poor creepy dad age Carl. Imagine a guy that's like your dad's age.
I don't want, no, don't do that.
One of Craig's friends being in love with you for a hot minute. You don't like that.
Who says they weren't? No, just kidding.
I'm so sorry. Maybe they were. No. You don't want to think about that.
I don't. We're done here.
Eventually, Elena got uncomfortable enough and had her family dismiss him. Poor Carl. However, shortly after they dismissed him, in the worst coincidence ever, Elena's symptoms returned. Yeah, maybe she was cured by love. Who knows? So her family called on Carl once again, thinking that his treatments were helping her. Despite all of Carl's best efforts, Elena passed away on October 25th, 1931, making the time that Carl spent with her well under the 2-year mark. So they didn't have like a long amount of living time together. Spoiler alert. Still, he offered to pay for Elena's funeral and erect a private above-ground grave. It's like a little mausoleum, which I will also post a picture of, to house her body. Her grief-stricken family just agreed, because who has that kind of money like laying around? Creeps. Creeps have elaborate funeral for random pretty women money. That's who does.
I know. I was wondering where he got, because that has to be pretty expensive.
I don't think he spent the money he made at the hospital on anything. He just lived by himself.
True, yeah.
So you just
he's still technically married?
Yeah.
Okay. With children?
They're just somewhere else.
Yeah.
They're in Zephyr Hills.
Living their life.
Yeah. Probably happy to be rid of him. The only condition Carl had for paying for all of these lovely things for Elena was that he would be given a key to her mausoleum so he could visit her. Yeah. And her family was sad and broke and agreed.
Right.
I don't know. I can't judge them too much because I don't know what I would do. I feel like I'd say no, but...
Yeah, but I guess you were also thinking that he's probably just going to pay his respects.
Right.
You know, they did know that he loved her. Obviously,
they did, and they believed that he extended her life.
Yeah.
So I guess they were.
I would
grateful.
probably, if I was them, I'd probably be like, all right, I guess that's not. I understand.
You did pay for all this stuff and treat her for free for 2 years, so yeah. Okay, you can bring her flowers once in a while. You can visit her, and visit her he did.
Oh, good.
Every night, every single night. Carl would spend hours at Elena's graveside, talking to her, singing her love songs, and telling her stories. Stop liking this story.
I love a good cemetery romance.
Don't we all? We'll talk about Mary Shelley sometime. She has a really good one.
Okay. I also have a really good personal cemetery love story.
Do you?
I do. That's where I thought I was going to get engaged or proposed to.
John.
On 2 different occasions. That's how many times I thought that I had that experience.
That would have been so good.
I know.
We'll talk about.
All right, we'll get there.
We'll have a.
Because I have some positive ones, some nice ones.
I like it. We'll definitely have an offshoot to this about cemetery love.
And they all involve Lovecraft, Edgar Allan Poe, and Stephen King.
I love this.
I know.
It's in our book, Gross Love.
Yes, Gross Love.
Trademark. So Carl kept up this behavior for 2 whole years. He visited her every day for 2 years. But what nobody knew was that he was also secretly preserving her.
Oh.
Yeah. So every visit, he would slowly inject her with embalming type solutions and preservatives that he had stolen from the hospital. He said, I know it's gross. He said Elena's spirit would speak to him from the grave and sing him songs in Spanish. You don't think it's as nice now, do you?
No.
No. She also told him that she no longer wished to be in a grave and she wanted Carl to take her away.
Oh, no.
That sounds like her, right?
Yeah.
That's what she said.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And so, on a brisk spring night in April of 1933, Carl removed the body of Maria Elena Milagro de Hoyos from her grave and brought her to his home using a child's little red wagon.
Adorable.
Right? Precious. Love it. Now let me remind you that at this point, Elena had been dead for 2 years.
Oh, yeah, that's been a while.
Even with the preservatives that Carl had slowly been injecting her body with, decomposition was fairly advanced. And the fact that a whole-ass person fit into a radio flyer should give you a little insight into how.
Okay, now I'm picturing it. First, I was like, is she going to be still kind of beautiful?
No.
Like a Madame Tussauds wax museum
Not yet.
type of thing?
Nope. No, she was still pretty bendable if you could fit her. Think about how little a child's wagon is. Your arms and legs would be dragging on the ground. She has to be
I mean, I'm little. Mine might
foldable.
be fine.
I don't think so. So that shows you how malleable her body was. Not to mention the smell. While I've never experienced it myself, I can imagine that 2-year-old corpse is not exactly an olfactory delight. I once worked at a place that had a dead possum trapped in the wall for 2 weeks. True story.
Ew.
It was so ghastly that I can't even make a joke about it. It was disgusting.
Mm-mm.
But odors are no match for terrifying, stalky, one-sided postmortem love. No siree. Carl soldiered forward. Where there's a will, there's a way. Carl clearly couldn't just keep her as is. So here's where the aforementioned eccentric and creative take a turn. I need you to get ready for this.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm settled in.
Since Carl was a doctor, because he's a doctor now, much like I am, he decided to do a little science. First, he took apart coat hangers and used them to join together Elena's bones in the places where soft tissue and cartilage had dissolved.
Oh, Jesus.
This also made her posable, which we will come back to later.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
If we must.
Mm-hmm. Next, he removed the putrefied internal organs and things in her body and
get rid of those.
Yeah, gross. Nobody wants that. And filled her body cavity with rags and newspapers. So she was still squishy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. After that, he created new skin from silk, wax, and plaster of Paris and covered her in it. And he painted her face on.
So see, there was wax.
There was wax. It is ghoulish looking.
Oh.
This is the picture I showed Leslie.
Are you sure?
I kind of really want to show her again just to give her a moment. And the first time I showed Leslie this picture is when we knew that we could do a podcast together.
I thought she was going to be beautiful.
View.
I can't. No.
That's just a side view.
No,
I don't even have the full.
way.
I will post pictures of Elena.
Is that how he pictured her? In his Finally.
One doesn't want to think that that's it. So after he painted her face on top, he then gathered all the hair that had fallen from her rotted scalp and created a wig of sorts.
How precious.
Yeah. So if you notice, it's just like a tuft of hair on the top of her head. It doesn't cascade. It's not. It's terrible. To top it all off, he added 2 shiny glass eyes to replace what had become of Elena's.
Mm-hmm.
And voila.
I'm shivering over here.
A human doll.
Oh, goodness.
Of sorts.
A squishy human doll.
Well, you don't want them to be all stiff. That's not a person.
I want to know, do you have descriptions of the eyebrows?
They're dark and painted on, like with paint.
Because
they're startling.
They look like from the 90s.
Mm-hmm. That brow was popular in the 20s and 30s too. That thin, permanently startled eyebrow.
Yeah.
Her features are ghastly. You have to look at a picture to really get the full impact of this, but
you don't have to.
Oh, you're gonna though. So of course, Elena required constant maintenance. You can't just keep like a gross dead body around forever.
She's so high maintenance.
I know. Jeez. And the smell was still an issue, clearly.
Yeah.
So Carl would be seen frequently buying ladies' perfume.
You know what he should have done is stuffed the towel. Like he should have soaked the towels in like potpourri kind of things.
Here's where your like skincare soap maker side is coming out. You know what you should do to smell good when you're a corpse?
Yeah. I mean, if he's stuffing her, get it on the inside, it'll come out. That's what happens.
That sounds logical to me, but I am not a crazy nutbag who thinks I'm a Dr. Count.
Well, if I was there.
You could have been very helpful, and it's a shame you weren't there. You probably would have been loving it.
He would have probably had this going for much longer than I'm sure he...
Oh, no. Wait.
Oh, okay.
And she needed clothes, so he was seen buying ladies' clothes. Neighbor boys would witness him through his window in the evening hours dancing with a lady friend or sitting with her at the table. Because rotting corpse and dinner.
Yes.
That's a good combination.
Maybe he sprayed her at that point.
Well, he was also periodically still like treating her with preservatives.
Okay.
Because he still worked at the hospital at this point. So he had access to that kind of stuff.
Can you imagine? Like, I have to go home now. I have a family to attend to.
It's not my real family. It's this gross corpse that I stuffed full of things.
And I love that you said neighbor boys. I don't know why that got me. The neighbor boys.
The neighbor boys. I don't know why I'm the most disgusted by them eating dinner together either.
Yeah.
There's so much gross things going on, but the thought of her sitting at the table with dinner.
Just imagine her glass eye popping out every now and then.
Into the food.
Yeah. Do you think he ate for two?
I bet you he served her a portion and then discarded it later.
Yeah.
I don't know that for a fact. It's just a supposition.
I mean, you would definitely think he tried to feed her. Probably like a doll. I mean, maybe he didn't stuff it
like
in
with
her
a little
mouth.
spoon, like a kid with a baby doll?
Yeah.
Oh, I hate that.
It's a love story.
Why is the food affecting me the most?
Gross love.
Maybe we should have called our podcast Gross Love.
Maybe that's what the name will be.
It is, okay, so this is, I hate this.
Neighbor boys.
Neighbor boys. Neighbor boys, thankfully, did not see this part. It has also been reported, and this was never...
I don't want to know.
I know, it's not okay. And this wasn't substantiated fully. It was reported, then denied, then reported again in the 70s when they re-examined his case. But I'm going to say it anyway. Apparently, he had jury-rigged a way to be intimate with his newly acquired wife with a paper tube.
The paper tube.
I can't imagine that didn't, chafe.
Yeah.
But that's really not the weirdest thing happening here, so...
No, maybe he...
Nope.
Maybe.
Nope. Maybe he a lot of things. But if you think that he was in love with the corpse and preserved her, but did not try to have sex with her,
oh no,
we're all very wrong.
Absolutely,
100% did. He was able to live like this with Elena for 7 years.
Lucky number 7. See, it is a love story.
There it is.
There it is.
That's the weirdest thing. The 7 years. That's the
that
weirdest part.
7 years.
That's a really, really long time.
Yeah.
That's way longer than he knew her in life.
Yeah.
Oh, just think about that. Rumors started to circulate that he had Elena's body. Like, people saw more of it and they started talking about it. People probably saw him in his little red wagon at some point. And they eventually got back to Elena's sister, Florinda. And Florinda is like a badass, and I love her. She heard about it and went directly to his house right away.
I love it.
I know. Yes, girl. And she pounded on his door and walked in only to find what had remained of her sister in Carl's bed.
Oh my God, that must have been so horrifying.
Yeah.
Because it's so gross. And
I know. And she really looks ghoulish.
Yeah.
And she was very pretty in life.
I know. Well, that's what, before you showed me that picture, I was imagining a very beautiful wax figure.
Okay.
Her hair still curled like
no,
he would
her hair is like a hat
curl it
on the
still.
top of her head.
It's not.
I already posted a picture of Elena being really pretty. There are a couple, and I'll make sure to post them because she does deserve that. She doesn't deserve to be remembered as she was found.
No, it's like a totally different.
Absolutely. She's very young, too. It's just all sad. So naturally, Florinda called the authorities right away, and Carl was taken into custody. He was evaluated and found mentally competent.
Yeah.
Well,
he's a doctor.
I think that that's debatable.
Yeah.
I don't know that psychiatry was as developed in 1930 as it is now, but for history's sake, he's just a fanciful asshat.
Right. He probably just knew how to talk out of his asshat.
Which he made from hair.
Stop. In tubes.
Oh my God. Ew. Carl was charged with wantonly and maliciously destroying a grave and removing a body without authorization. Things were so much more fanciful in the 30s.
I know.
We would never word it that way.
Was this in the newspaper like that, probably?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. But the charges were dropped due to the statute of limitations because it's 7 years.
Are you kidding? But it's like a continued...
No, but the act
of removing her body
and, messing it up. I guess there was only one real act of like making her a doll.
But
and then it was just
but it took. Okay, I need to go back and be a lawyer.
Okay.
So not only could I have helped him preserve this body longer, but I could have and have it smell delicious, but I could have also been the prosecuting lawyer.
Sure.
And
you can do whatever you want to be
because
in this
even
world.
though it started 7 years ago, it continued because it took him a couple years to do the wax and that didn't all take 1 year, did it?
He preserved her in like one scientific
But he had
act.
to keep preserving her. He had to keep that up.
Yeah, I guess so. He was only charged with the one act, and it was all dismissed. And this is
I'm really angry.
Well, you're a lawyer. I'm a doctor. It's that's us now.
Okay.
Lawyer and doctor present gross love. I like this. And the worst part, in my opinion, is that when this started to get publicized, the public loved him. This story is still reported as Dr. pines for his dead wife.
Oh.
That's how it's reported. Everyone's like, he's just hopelessly romantic, and he couldn't live without the woman of his love. That is not what this is.
No.
And articles about this guy still circulate. Like around Halloween, it'll be on a lot of lists, and it's on like a cracked list and stuff like that. And a lot of them still say that she was just the love of his life, and he went mad with grief and did this to her. That is not true.
I feel like John's going to listen to this podcast when he's editing it and be like, yeah, I get it. I love Leslie. I get it.
Don't die young.
Keep me preserved. I'll show you how.
Make sure that you soak the rags in essential oils, please.
Yeah.
God, get it together.
Especially with tea tree. That kills some bacteria.
You're just helping psychopaths at this point.
I'm sorry. It probably won't work, guys.
Probably not, but it might.
It might.
Upon inspection of his home, detectives, in my opinion, this is the craziest part, found a curious structure behind his house dubbed Elena's airship. Now, I have pictures of this too.
Okay.
It looks like a big plywood rocket ship.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. And when he was asked about it, he nonchalantly explains that he planned to fly Elena's body into space where it would be blasted with radiation and bring her back to life. Those are quotes in papers and medical documents.
I mean, yeah, nobody knew what space was like. Maybe, I don't know why he thought radiation was out there, but
I don't know.
Did they know about spaceships? Did they talk about spaceships then?
I don't think so. I don't think they really did.
I'm sure that they talked
I'm
about
going to
what
show
was out
you
there.
A picture. This is what he thought would go into space.
Oh, wow. Looks like something it looks like a cannon.
It does look like a cannon.
But that looks like it would have been in, what's that movie? The Day the Earth Stood Still.
Yeah, it does.
First one.
And now that I'm looking at it more, it doesn't look like it's wood. It looks like a lot of it is metal. It looks like an old body of an airplane with, I don't know, what looks like an enormous pot lid, but it's something huge on the side of it as wheels and windows.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know. There's not a lot of information on where he got the parts or how he made it, but he did. And it was out behind his house. And then they just like, that was fine. They ignored that. He was mentally competent.
Right.
Cool. Poor Elena so fascinated the medical community and the public at large that she was put on display at the Dean Lopez funeral home, and 6,800 people came to view the spectacle.
That is terrible.
I know.
Did their family get any money for this?
No. Mm-mm. I don't know that they even charged. They just put her on display and you could come and see her.
That makes me really sad.
I know. It was a spectacle. There wasn't as much entertainment, I suppose, in the 30s, and that's...
Did Carl visit her every day?
He couldn't. He was locked up at the time. But he did, once he was released, he did ask for her body to be returned to him. They were like, hard no. You don't get her back. Sorry. He was like, yeah, can I just get that back, though? Because I put a lot of effort into it.
Yeah, worked really hard on that.
He did. Oh, God.
And I love her.
We love her.
So much.
Gross.
Gross love.
Eventually,
we have to work on our sound.
I know, we're doing good. Eventually, Elena was returned to her family, and they buried her in an unmarked grave so that Carl could never find her again. And probably nobody else. I imagine that, had people known where she was, they probably would have dug her up.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure.
Oh, I hate that thought, but it's true. Carl returned to Pasco County, Florida, where he bought a home near his estranged wife, Doris, who is still in play here.
Okay.
I know. Doris, inexplicably, I can't understand Doris at all. She supported him for the rest of his life.
What? Well,
I know.
But did she have,
there's no documentation that she was legally obligated to. She just did. Poor crazy Carl.
I don't know. Maybe she was just tired and was like, whatever, just come home.
I guess he was her children's father.
Yeah.
And maybe she was like, can you just maybe make guest appearances once in a while as dad?
Well, but like you said, a lot of the public didn't see him as this horrible man. They actually felt sorry for him.
They did.
So maybe she would have felt, maybe people would have mocked her for not taking him in.
Maybe. I don't know that people knew she existed because a lot of reports call Elena his wife.
Right.
100% not his wife.
I'm sure nobody knew she existed until after he decided to be like, I have a wife and kids.
No, in the mid-40s, he wrote his autobiography.
Oh, did he?
Yeah. I don't know where one gets their hands on a copy of that. But
you haven't found it?
No. It's apparently obviously crazy. It was like a Pulp Fiction novel. It wasn't. It was out of Crazy Pants' brain. And
I would love to find that.
I know, same. If you have a copy of Carl Tanzler's autobiography, please...
Listeners,
tell us.
This is your first task.
Yeah. I'm already asking for things. So needy. Oh, no.
Go, discover.
Carl survived until the age of 75. He passed away on July 3rd, 1952. And when he was discovered, he was holding onto a life-size effigy he had made of Elena. So a big old doll, no real corpse, just doll. Wearing a death mask he had made of her. Like a plaster mold of her face that he had made of her after death.
He was very crafty.
Yeah, he sure was. Some love knows no limits, but maybe it should. And that is the sordid tale of Carl Tanzler. Tanzler. Sorry if I mispronounced any names.
What was his full name again?
His birth certificate is just Carl Tanzler.
No, I know, but
Count Karl von Kossel.
Yes.
His death certificate said Count Carl Tanzler von Kossel. Had all of it.
All of it.
Because why not? He's dead now. Give him all the names.
It just seems exhausting to write.
I know. That's why I just called him Carl the whole time.
Yeah.
Because accounts switch from name to name to name to name.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
That was, I guess it's still a love story. He did love her.
He loved her. There is love involved in the story.
Yeah.
It just kind of evolves into obsession, and it's pretty one-sided.
All right, so who are we toasting to today?
I think we should toast Elena's sister, Florinda.
Oh, yeah, I was thinking the same thing. And the neighbor boys. Don't forget about the neighbor boys. If it wasn't for them, Florinda may have never known about this.
I like that they're Southern now.
Yeah.
That's a musical I would go see. Florinda and the Neighbor Boys.
For sure. Oh, that would be fantastic.
That's the sequel that no one asked for.
I'm asking for it all day.
But we're here to provide it for you.
Great.
So we'll toast Florinda because she was a badass who sought justice for her sister when no one else did. And the Neighbor Boys.
And the Neighbor Boys who saw it all happen in the window.
for being creepy neighbor boys,
Yes.
but then having that payoff.
Yeah.
So cheers to them.
Cheers, cheers. So do you want to sign us off, Holly?
I do indeed. If it were the late 1930s and we had tuberculosis, we would be dead. Oh, my lungs. Blood.
Thank you for listening to the We Would Be Dead podcast. Hit subscribe now to never miss an episode. Rate and review our show on iTunes. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Would Be Dead Pod. And join our Facebook group to discuss the podcast and more. We need goats, and this guy has goats.
He had no goats, but a fake doctorate. Doctorate.